Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill late Sunday night. I just think some massive news for the Alabama fans. Offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb reuniting with Kalen DeBoer, taking over the offensive coordinator position for this Alabama program heading into 2025. Look, initial reactions, it's a home run hire for Alabama. We're going to get into what Ryan Grubb brings to the table as a play caller in terms of developing a passing attack, working with quarterbacks, working with wide receivers. In my opinion, there's not many better play callers, offensive minds than Ryan Grubb in the sport of football. Where I want to start here is maybe even a bigger storyline, and that is Kalen DeBoer getting back his right-hand man. There were times in the 2024 year, like, look, I know Kalen DeBoer, one of the best in the business as a football coach, felt uncomfortable at times taking over this head coaching job at Alabama, which, look, makes sense. You're coming from Washington to Alabama. You're taking over taking over from one of the best head coaches we've seen in college football. There was a lot of things that I think made Kalen DeBoer uncomfortable. The comfort factor of getting Ryan Grubb back on this Alabama coaching staff, I think is huge for Kalen DeBoer heading into 2025. Now, I want to get into not only the track record of Ryan Grubb, what he brings to Alabama, though I want to take a look at this offense. Like there is a lot of tools in the toolkit for Ryan Grubb to get to work with on this Alabama offense heading into 2025. Before we get into it, as always, to the Alabama fans, let it fly in the comment section. I would predict a lot of Alabama fans are fired up about this. I don't know how you could view it as a bad hire in the slightest. This is a hire to me that kind of changes how I think about Alabama going into the 2025 year. I think this is how impactful this hire is. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, I will give you the T-box here. Ryan Grubb come to Alabama. How are we feeling about it?
Yeah, and part of me almost was thinking, like, how did it take so long? It was like the second
Yeah.
he got let go from Seattle, it's like, oh, of course he's going to go back to Alabama. That's a great job. He knows Kalen. Obviously, he is Kalen DeBoer's guy. But I think the big thing I think a lot of teams learned, I think Michigan learned it. I think Alabama certainly learned it. But that idea of just promoting from within, like on the surface, sometimes seems like good, but you need to have the guy. And I'm not sure Nick Sheridan was the guy ready to step up. And you saw Alabama at times really be rolling, like in that Georgia game, like in the LSU game. And then you saw some games where it really fell off the tracks and they could never quite get it back on. And to me, that has a lot to do with your offensive coordinator. Do you have a steady, calm voice in that room? And I'm not sure they totally did. And that's not to say Nick Sheridan might not be a really good coordinator at some point in his career, but that was his first time really in live bullets in a real big situation. Ryan Grubb is like the opposite. I mean, that guy, he was doing it with Kalen DeBoer. He did it at Washington. He was able to kind of work through some of those growing pains early in his career as a play caller. And I think that's becoming really important, or something I'm almost looking at, like these teams, like you need to have a good play caller who's done it and probably done it before they just take over the job at a place like Alabama.
It did feel like, look, Nick Sheridan was not the first option for Kalen DeBoer. Ryan Grubb was, for lack of better terms, might have been forced to roll with Nick Sheridan when Ryan Grubb
100% was forced to, because at that point in the season, it was like, well, you were going to already kind of working your way into spring. Most of the coordinators had been hired. It's a weird time to have to hire guys well into like February, it felt like. So to me, I think you had to go with Nick Sheridan, but you are right. That clearly was not the plan for Kalen DeBoer. And I think in this day and age in college football, even though Kalen DeBoer was the offensive guy, where you're like, okay, he can probably make this work. The head coach, I think, should want really good coordinators, whether they're offensive geniuses or defensive geniuses. They should want two really strong,
especially at a program like Alabama, where, look, there's a heck of a lot more than the X's and O's when you're the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide. And it felt like, you talk about at times Kalen DeBoer just feeling uneasy, unsettled. Maybe it was a little bit of, hey, I got my hands too much. I'm wearing too many hats as a head coach. And if you are having your, look at what look what happened with Ryan Day at Ohio State, like kind of gets removed from the offense a little bit, takes that CEO approach. They go win a national championship.
Because it wasn't just that Kalen DeBoer was unsettled. Like that team came unsettled at times.
Multiple times.
Their inability to kind of right the ship in a sense, I think falls on Kalen DeBoer. Probably not having his guy as the offensive coordinator, being stretched a little bit too thin, along
Yeah.
with the fact that it was his first year at a place that is Alabama, which is a monster to manage.
Yeah, I do think that this might be the best aspect of this hire. Well, there's two really good aspects. One, you're getting an elite offensive mind who knows how to call plays and knows how to scheme up an offense. Number two, it probably frees up Kalen DeBoer to really focus on being a head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide, which it's hard to be a head coach and also be so involved in the offense. A little background on Ryan Grubb, and look, the Alabama fans are very familiar with Ryan Grubb, right? Elite quarterback developer, in my opinion, and a long track record of doing so, most notably with Michael Penix, but also Jake Haener. And Jake Haener was not a super talented cat. Like, with all due respect to Jake Haener, they put an offense around Jake Haener where he could have a lot of success, and he blossomed into an NFL draft pick. And a guy that I believe made a start in the NFL as well. That speaks to Ryan Grubb, what he can do with quarterbacks and also the wide receivers. I mean, you pull up this Alabama depth chart, Dill. He's got the toolkit. And I think it starts with the quarterback conversation where, look, I'm a Michigan guy. I love Bryce Underwood. If there's another quarterback in that class that I think is Bryce Underwood caliber, it's Keelon Russell. And I don't know if he's going to start as a true freshman because I know that Alabama likes Ty Simpson and Austin Mack. Dill, it's hard for me to visualize a reality going into 2025 where they don't get really good quarterback play from one of those three in that quarterback room.
And frankly, it is the question for Alabama right now, because I know some people look to the defense like that's a talented enough group. You return all those guys in the secondary who are really young, and you saw them get better over the course of the year. Like, Alabama's kind of ready to be right back in contention.
Yeah, 100%.
That quarterback spot is the one spot you look at needs to get figured out. Obviously, slightly concerning that. I mean, you're kind of gonna run a different offense than you did last year because Jalen Milroe is so different.
Yeah, but you're gonna run an offense that I think Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb are more comfortable with.
I think, again, I don't mean that to say that was a bad thing, because there were some times where it didn't feel like anyone was comfortable running the offense.
They got all the deal. They have all the pieces to run back what they were doing with Washington. Like, I think you will get good quarterback play. Again, whether it's from those three quarterbacks that we talked about, one of them is going to be good and that can run that kind of offense. The wide receiver room, obviously, Ryan Williams, you go out, bring Isaiah Horton, and you get Jalen Hale back from injury. Jeremy Bernard's that guy. That's going to be a really good room. I look at this situation here and say this is an offense where you can get back to what you like to do with the Washington Huskies. And as talented as I think Jalen Milroe was, there was that clash between, hey, Kalen DeBoer, Nick Sheridan, they want to do one thing. Well, guess what? Jalen Milroe's skill set is kind of the other thing. This allows them to get back to what they want to do, especially adding Ryan Grubb into the fold.
Yeah, and again, I think you look like really excited to see what he can do, because Keelon Russell, to me,
he's dog, dude.
He's the guy I'm looking at if I'm an Alabama fan. Like, I want to see him playing early. So talented. Again, he has the weapons in place. I think the offensive line, that hopefully the tackle play is kind of up to snuff and they play the way they're supposed to play.
Yeah.
But I look everywhere else, you look really, really, really good there. And then Ryan Grubb, you're right. The fact that I think he's now in the fold in his ability to get the most out of quarterbacks.
Yeah.
It's going to be
it's a great
it's
fit.
I think you're much more excited if you're Alabama coming in with Ryan Grubb than you would be without, because again, last year it didn't feel like they ever totally got any rhythm on offense, or at least consistently. Like, they had it, but it was so fits and starts. Now,
yeah, exactly. It was like it's just like not a smooth operation. Like, they were able to put points up on the board because you had some really dynamic difference makers in Jalen Milroe and Ryan Williams. But wasn't that well-oiled machine that we remember the Washington Huskies being. And again, I think we'll sign out on this. I think the biggest thing is you letting Kalen DeBoer become the head coach again. And I think that matters a lot for Alabama. We'll sign out there. Dynamite hire. It's a hire, and I don't say this all the time for coordinator hires. This is a coordinator hire where I look at Alabama. I look at them a little bit different going into 2025 than I did 30 minutes ago. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.